Have you ever wondered why some people can stand in the middle of chaos and still remain calm, almost unshaken, while others crumble under the slightest pressure? Most people think calmness is just a personality trait, something you're either born with or not. Some even mistake it for weakness or indifference. But here's the truth. Calmness is power, real life-changing power. It's the silent force that keeps your mind clear and your heart steady even when the world around you feels like it's falling apart. Think about it in your own life. How many moments have been made worse, not by the problem itself, but by your reaction to it? A sudden argument, a critical mistake at work, a piece of unexpected bad news. The event is one thing, but the storm inside you can be far more destructive. And yet, when you manage to stay calm, you notice something incredible. The obstacle in front of you often isn't as terrifying as you imagined. That's what we're going to explore today. Not just why calmness matters, but how you can build it, strengthen it, and use it to face and overcome any obstacle. You'll discover practical tools, real-life examples, and timeless wisdom to help you hold your ground when everything around you is trying to shake it. Now, I want to hear from you. When was the last time you managed to keep calm under pressure? Or maybe, when did you wish you had? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you find this topic valuable, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the upcoming episodes. Every week we'll dive deeper into strategies that not only help you stay calm, but turn that calmness into clarity, confidence, and real strength. Because once you learn to master your inner state, you'll realize that no obstacle is as big as it first seems. Calmness is often misunderstood. Many see it as passivity, a lack of reaction, a sign of weakness, or even indifference. But in truth, calmness is not the absence of action. It is the mastery of action. It is the capacity to choose your response rather than be driven by impulse. In the noise and rush of modern life, this ability has become one of the rarest and most powerful forms of human strength. Why is calmness a power? Because it places you in control of the only thing you truly have dominion over: yourself. Most people are at the mercy of external events. An angry comment can sour their entire day. A sudden setback can trigger panic. A piece of bad news can cloud their thinking for hours. In such moments, they lose not just their composure, but also their ability to make clear decisions. Calmness changes that dynamic. It creates a pause between stimulus and response, a space in which you can think, evaluate, and act with intention. Imagine being in a crowded room where everyone is shouting at once. Your mind under stress works much the same way. Multiple emotional voices, all competing for attention. Calmness turns down the volume, allowing your reasoning to surface. This is why people who remain calm during crises often make better choices. They can see the situation for what it is, not just for how it feels. In any group, whether a family, a team at work, or a rescue operation, there is often one person whose calm presence steadies the rest. When you remain composed, others instinctively anchor themselves to you. Your calmness becomes contagious, helping to lower the collective anxiety. Think of a captain on a turbulent flight. Passengers draw confidence from their steady tone, even if the turbulence hasn't changed. Anger, panic, and worry are exhausting. They burn through mental and emotional resources that could be used to solve problems or recover from setbacks. When you maintain calmness, you conserve that energy, channeling it toward purposeful action instead of wasting it on emotional spirals. Imagine a leader in a business facing a sudden financial crisis. News breaks that a major client is pulling out and the room is instantly tense. Some executives start blaming each other. Others begin drafting rush strategies without fully understanding the problem. But one person, the leader, takes a moment to breathe, reviews the facts, asks targeted questions, and listens before speaking. They acknowledge the gravity of the situation without feeding the panic. Because they are calm, they can identify the most urgent issues, delegate effectively, and prevent rash decisions that could worsen the situation. The crisis doesn't disappear, but it becomes navigable. The difference lies in the state of mind. Calmness, however, is not an accident. It is the product of practice. You cannot expect to be serene in a storm if you have never practiced being calm in small waves. Daily life offers endless opportunities to rehearse this skill, waiting in traffic without honking, listening without interrupting, pausing before replying to a provocative message. These moments are your training ground. Over time, your default reaction shifts from automatic emotional outbursts to deliberate, measured responses. It's important to note that calmness is not suppression. Suppression pushes emotions down without resolving them, and they often resurface later in more destructive ways. Calmness, in contrast, acknowledges the emotion: I feel angry, I feel anxious, and then decides how to act in alignment with your values, not your impulses. This distinction is what makes calmness sustainable and genuine. In the end, calmness is a choice, but it's a choice made possible by preparation. Like a muscle, it strengthens through consistent use, and once it becomes part of who you are, it changes your relationship with life itself. Challenges don't vanish, but they no longer control you. You are no longer a passenger on the storm's winds. You are the one holding the wheel. The Stoics understood calmness not as a luxury, but as a duty to oneself and to others. Epictetus taught that while we cannot control external events, we can always control our judgments about them. This is the heart of calmness, realizing that events themselves are neutral. It is our interpretation that gives them weight. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire in constant turmoil, wrote in Meditations, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." To the Stoic, calmness is a form of justice. It allows you to treat others fairly, even in conflict. It is also courage, facing reality without denial, but without surrender to fear. In mastering calmness, you do not merely endure the world, you meet it as an equal. Calmness, despite how it may appear from the outside, is not something you are simply born with. It is not a fixed personality trait, reserved for the lucky few who just happen to be unshakable. It is a cultivated quality developed over time through experience, reflection, and deliberate practice. People who seem naturally calm have often spent years, sometimes without even realizing it, building the internal habits and perspectives that make it possible. The roots of calmness can be traced to several sources, and each plays its own part in shaping how we respond to life's challenges. Calmness begins with knowing yourself deeply, your strengths, weaknesses, triggers, and values. Without this awareness, you are vulnerable to being blindsided by your own reactions. You might lash out in anger without realizing the insecurity that provoked it, or shut down in fear without seeing the assumptions that caused it. When you understand your own patterns, you can anticipate them. You notice the early signs of irritation or anxiety and have the chance to pause before they control you. Self-awareness turns emotional reactions from unconscious reflexes into conscious choices. Over time, most people learn that reacting too quickly can make a situation worse. A thoughtless word can damage a relationship. A rushed decision can deepen a problem. Those who have lived through enough of these moments and reflected on them begin to understand the value of slowing down. Often older individuals appear calmer, not because they are less emotional, but because they have learned through trial and error that panic rarely helps. Each past challenge becomes a kind of quiet teacher, showing that storms can pass and problems can be solved without unnecessary drama. Just as physical strength can be built through exercise, mental steadiness can be cultivated through daily practices that strengthen focus and emotional regulation. Meditation, mindful breathing, and even simple activities like tending a garden or walking in nature help train the mind to remain present and steady. These practices are like rehearsal. They allow you to meet small everyday frustrations, spilled coffee, a delayed train with patience, so that when a real crisis comes, you already have the skill to stay composed. Without a framework for making sense of the world, people are easily thrown off balance by uncertainty and change. Philosophies like Stoicism, Buddhism, and Taoism all provide a deep foundation for calmness, because they teach that we cannot control everything that happens to us, but we can always control our attitude and actions. A person who believes that every challenge is an opportunity to grow will respond very differently from someone who sees every challenge as a personal attack. Philosophy shapes perspective, and perspective shapes peace. The people we spend time with and the spaces we live in influence our emotional baseline more than we realize. A chaotic, noisy, or unstable environment keeps the nervous system in a constant state of alert, making calmness difficult to maintain. On the other hand, being around people who are themselves composed can help you internalize that steadiness. Calmness, like anxiety, is contagious. When you surround yourself with order, kindness, and mutual respect, you give your mind a stable foundation from which to face the unpredictable. Self-awareness helps you recognize your emotions. Experience teaches you the cost of reacting without thinking. Mental training gives you the tools to steady yourself. Philosophy gives you the lens to interpret events, and environment supports your practice. Without one of these elements, calmness can still grow, but it may be fragile, easily disturbed when life becomes turbulent. With all of them in place, calmness becomes resilient, able to withstand even the strongest winds. Consider the example of a doctor working in an emergency room. In a single shift, they may face a dozen life or death situations, each one demanding quick but accurate action. Without self-awareness, they might let fear cloud their judgment. Without experience, they might freeze or rush into mistakes. Without mental training, they could become overwhelmed by the noise and urgency around them. Without a guiding philosophy, they might take every loss personally and burn out within a year. Without a supportive environment, they might drown in stress. But when all 5 roots are present, that doctor can walk into the chaos of the ER and remain calm, not because they feel nothing, but because they have built the inner stability to act with clarity and purpose. It's important to emphasize that these roots can be developed intentionally. You can strengthen self-awareness through reflection journaling and honest feedback from others. You can gain experience by leaning into challenges instead of avoiding them. You can train your mind through mindfulness and patience in everyday annoyances. You can explore philosophies that resonate with you, learning to see the bigger picture. And you can create a healthier environment by choosing the people, places, and habits that support peace rather than disrupt it. Calmness, then, is not an accident. It is a skill, a discipline, and a way of living. The more you nurture its roots, the more naturally it will grow. And when storms come, as they inevitably will, you will discover that your roots are deep enough to keep you standing. The Stoics believed that calmness was the natural state of a mind that understood the limits of control. Epictetus famously taught, "Some things are in our control and others not." This simple distinction is one of the most powerful tools for building inner peace. When you focus only on what you can control, your own thoughts, actions, and choices, you stop wasting energy on the chaos beyond your reach. Marcus Aurelius, facing constant political pressure and personal loss, reminded himself daily that external events could not touch the core of who he was unless he allowed them to. He saw each challenge as a test of his training, not a threat to his existence. In this way, Stoicism aligns perfectly with the 5 roots of calmness it fosters: self-awareness, frames life's trials as teachers, and offers a philosophy that keeps the mind steady no matter the storm. If calmness is the foundation of inner strength, then self-restraint is the structure that rises from it. You can imagine calmness as the still surface of a lake, but without self-restraint, the slightest pebble will cause ripples that disturb it. Self-restraint is the ability to hold your immediate impulses at bay, to create space between feeling and action, and to choose your response with intention rather than compulsion. It is not suppression, nor is it cold detachment. It is the conscious governance of your own mind and behavior. One of the greatest misunderstandings about self-restraint is that it's about denying yourself the right to feel. That could not be further from the truth. Emotions are natural, human, and inescapable. Anger, fear, excitement, joy, they all arise on their own, and they all have something to teach us. Self-restraint is not the refusal to feel these emotions, but the refusal to be ruled by them. It means acknowledging their presence, understanding their source, and deciding how or whether they should influence your actions. In heated moments, or time is the difference between clarity and regret. A poorly chosen word can damage a relationship beyond repair. A rash decision can lead to consequences that take years to undo. Self-restraint inserts a pause, sometimes just a breath, sometimes a night's rest, that allows reason to return before action is taken. A colleague undermines your idea in front of the entire team. The instinctive reaction is to respond defensively, perhaps with a sharp remark meant to reassert your authority. Without self-restraint, that's exactly what you do, and in doing so, you escalate tension damage, your professional image, and perhaps even alienate allies. With self-restraint, you let the moment pass without retaliation. You store the information, address the issue later in private, and in the meantime, you keep the meeting productive. Not only do you avoid unnecessary conflict, but you also demonstrate poise and maturity qualities that build trust and respect over time. Self-restraint is also essential in moments of temptation, not just confrontation. When faced with an alluring but harmful choice, indulging in a habit you've sworn to break, cutting ethical corners for short-term gain, or saying yes to something that overextends your energy, self-restraint acts as the brake pedal. It allows you to weigh the long-term cost against the short-term pleasure. And often, it's the presence of that momentary pause that makes the difference between staying aligned with your values and straying from them. Like calmness, it is not built in emergencies. It is trained in small daily moments when the stakes are low. You practice when you resist the urge to check your phone during a conversation, when you take a deep breath instead of interrupting, when you hold back an impulse purchase to think about it overnight. Each time you succeed, you strengthen the neural pathways that make restraint your default mode. Over time, this becomes less of an effort and more of a reflex, not a suppression of self, but a deliberate expression of self-control. Many people see it as a kind of loss. The loss of expressing their full feelings in the moment, the loss of doing what they want without restriction. But in reality, it is a gain. When you exercise restraint, you are not limiting your freedom, you are expanding it. You are freeing yourself from the tyranny of impulsive emotions, from the predictable patterns that others can exploit, and from the regret that so often follows unconsidered action. This kind of freedom is not the absence of rules, It is the presence of mastery. In high-level competition, athletes face not only physical challenges, but also mental games from opponents. A well-timed insult, a deliberate foul, or a questionable referee call is often meant to provoke a reaction. The player without self-restraint takes the bait, loses focus, and makes mistakes. The player with self-restraint keeps their mind on the game, responding only to what matters for victory. That ability to ignore provocation and stay on strategy is often what separates champions from the rest. The truth is, self-restraint isn't just a personal virtue, it's a social strength. In a world where most people broadcast their immediate feelings through words or actions, the person who can pause, assess, and respond with composure stands out. Others learn that you are not easily manipulated, that your reactions are thoughtful, and that you can be trusted in situations where the wrong move could cost dearly. And perhaps most importantly, self-restraint protects your own peace. Without it, you become reactive to every external influence, every comment, every frustration, every temptation. With it, you maintain sovereignty over your mind and your mood. This does not mean you never speak passionately or act decisively. It means that when you do, it is by choice, not compulsion. Ultimately, self-restraint is the art of being your own gatekeeper. You decide which emotions cross into action, which words leave your mouth, and which impulses become reality. It is a quiet but unshakable form of strength, one that allows calmness not only to exist, but to thrive in the middle of life's storms. For the Stoics, self-restraint was not optional, it was a cornerstone of a virtuous life. Epictetus taught that external events are beyond our control, but our judgments and responses are ours alone. Self-restraint is the practical application of that teaching, the discipline of choosing our actions based on reason rather than passion. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." By this he meant that freedom comes from mastery over oneself, not from the ability to do anything at any moment. A person without restraint is like a ship without a rudder, vulnerable to every current and wind. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that anger, greed, and fear arise in the mind, and that we have the power to stand up and say, "I do not consent." In cultivating self-restraint, we align with this ancient wisdom. True strength is not in domination over others, but in dominion over oneself. One of the most liberating shifts you can make in life is to stop waiting for others to change before you feel at peace. This is the heart of what it means to take everything on yourself, not in the sense of blaming yourself for every problem, but in the sense of accepting full responsibility for your own reactions, decisions, and emotional state. It's a mindset that moves you from being a passive participant in life to becoming an active creator of your experience. Many people resist this idea. They hear "take everything on yourself" and think it means carrying the weight of the world alone or excusing the bad behavior of others. But responsibility in this context is not about taking the blame, it's about taking the power back. When you decide that your mood, your peace, and your actions are not dependent on someone else doing the right thing, you stop being hostage to their choices. Responsibility begins with the recognition that you cannot control how others treat you, what they say, or what they believe. You can influence, you can communicate, you can set boundaries, but the only thing you have full control over is yourself. This is not a limitation, it's a point of freedom. It means that even in the worst conditions, you can choose a response that aligns with your values, rather than being dragged down by someone else's conduct. This isn't self-punishment, it's clarity. In a conflict, for example, it's tempting to focus entirely on the other person's faults, their tone, their unfairness, their refusal to see reason. But asking yourself, "What is my role in this?" opens the door to solutions you can actually act on. Maybe you didn't communicate clearly. Maybe you reacted too quickly. Maybe you allowed a boundary to be crossed without addressing it earlier. These are all within your control to change in the future. In this way, responsibility is empowering. It removes the false comfort of blame, the idea that the problem will go away if only the other person changes. Instead, it brings the uncomfortable but freeing truth the only guaranteed change agent in your life is you. Let's say you have a coworker who constantly takes credit for your work. Without responsibility, you might spend your energy complaining to others, feeling victimized, and waiting for a manager to step in. With responsibility, you still acknowledge the wrongness of the behavior, but you focus on what you can do, document your contributions. Speak up in meetings, address the coworker directly, or escalate the issue to the right channels. The unfairness may remain, but your response is no longer reactive. It is proactive, grounded in your own agency. When you miss a goal or make a mistake, it's easy to fall into excuses. The market was bad. The timing was wrong. Other people didn't do their part. While these factors may be true, they distract from the most important question: what could I have done differently? This question doesn't weaken you, it sharpens you. It forces you to examine your choices, learn from them, and adjust your approach. Over time, this habit of self-examination builds resilience. When you stop expecting others to manage your feelings, you stop riding the roller coaster of their behavior. If someone is rude to you, you acknowledge the rudeness, but decide how you will respond. If a plan falls through, you acknowledge the disappointment, but decide how you will use the time instead. This is not emotional numbness, it's emotional leadership. You become the one steering your internal state, rather than handing the wheel to every passerby. Of course, there's a balance to be struck. Taking everything on yourself does not mean tolerating mistreatment or excusing harm. It means separating what you can control from what you cannot, and putting your energy only into the first category. You can walk away from toxic people, set firm boundaries, seek justice through proper channels, all while maintaining your own responsibility for how you carry yourself in the process. A helpful way to practice this is to reframe frustration as feedback. Instead of thinking, "This shouldn't be happening to me," try, "What is this situation revealing about me? What skill, boundary, or habit needs to grow here?" This doesn't mean you accept the wrong as right. It means you use every situation as a mirror to see yourself more clearly. Over time, taking everything on yourself becomes less about carrying burdens and more about holding keys. You hold the key to your reactions, to your growth, to the direction your life takes next. And that is a power no one can take from you without your permission. The Stoics were masters of this mindset. Epictetus taught that while some things are beyond our control, the way we choose to interpret and respond to them is entirely our own. By taking everything on yourself, you are simply aligning with this truth, that peace comes not from the world behaving as you wish, but from mastering your own will. Marcus Aurelius, faced with betrayal, loss, and constant political intrigue, reminded himself in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the essence of responsibility in the Stoic sense. You don't wait for life to become easier. You become stronger in meeting it. To live this way is not to be passive in the face of injustice, but to refuse to let injustice dictate your inner state. You remain the ruler of your own mind, and therefore the ruler of your life. Self-restraint and personal responsibility are not just lofty ideals. They are practical skills that can be trained. Like a muscle, they strengthen with deliberate and consistent use. You cannot expect to hold your composure during life's biggest storms if you haven't practiced in the smaller waves. And you cannot expect to take responsibility for your reactions if you've never examined how those reactions are formed. You cannot manage what you cannot see. Most emotional outbursts happen because we are not aware of them building up. Anger rarely appears out of nowhere. It brews, gathering strength through small irritations we let pass unnoticed. Anxiety doesn't just slam into us. It builds from a chain of thoughts we never pause to challenge. Training self-restraint starts with catching the early signs, the tightness in your jaw, the shift in your breathing, the heat rising in your chest. These physical cues are your first signal to slow down. Once you've noticed the signs, the next step is creating a pause, what some call the golden gap between stimulus and response. This pause can be as short as a single deep breath, or as long as taking a day to think before replying to an email. The goal is not to suppress your feelings, but to give them space to settle so that your response comes from clarity, not chaos. When someone cuts you off in traffic, resist the urge to honk or mutter under your breath. When your phone buzzes during a conversation, leave it unanswered for a few minutes. These may seem trivial, but each time you succeed, you reinforce your ability to choose your response instead of reacting automatically. Self-restraint without purpose can feel like repression. Self-restraint guided by values feels like freedom. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? If your value is dignity, your response will reflect that. If your value is fairness, you will pause long enough to ensure you're not being unjust. Principles give you a compass so that your restraint isn't just avoidance, it's intentional action in the direction of your character. Think of situations that typically test your patience. A colleague who talks over you, a family member who criticizes you, a client who changes their demands at the last minute. Visualize the moment happening, then picture yourself responding in a way that reflects your values, not with passive silence, but with composed assertiveness. This mental practice prepares your brain to follow that path in real time. You cannot build emotional resilience in a vacuum. Seek out small challenges that push you slightly outside your comfort zone. Speaking up in a meeting, addressing a minor misunderstanding, directly taking responsibility for a small mistake without deflecting. These micro tests prepare you for larger ones. Every time you step into discomfort and handle it with restraint, you prove to yourself that you can manage bigger situations without losing control. If you are constantly surrounded by people who react impulsively, it will be harder to practice restraint. Conversely, if you spend time with those who handle pressure gracefully, their habits will influence yours. This is why elite athletes often train together not only to push their physical limits, but to absorb each other's mental discipline. Finally, maintaining self-restraint and ownership over your reactions requires reflection. After a difficult interaction, ask yourself, did I notice my emotions rising before I acted? Did I take a pause? Did my response align with my values? What can I do differently next time? This reflective loop is where real growth happens. Without it, you are relying on chance. With it, you are deliberately shaping your character. In fact, the more skilled you become at managing your reactions, the more fully you can feel your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You can be angry without being destructive, disappointed without being bitter, and excited without being reckless. This is emotional maturity, the ability to experience feelings deeply while keeping your actions aligned with your principles. In the long run, training self-restraint and taking ownership of your reactions transforms more than your behavior. It transforms your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who can be trusted by others and by yourself to act with integrity under pressure. That trust is the foundation of confidence. It's not built from knowing you will never face challenges. It's built from knowing you can meet those challenges without betraying who you are. The Stoics saw the training of self-restraint as central to living well. Epictetus advised his students to rehearse in their minds the situations that might provoke them, so that when they arose, they would not be surprised. This mental preparation mirrors the modern concept of visualization and cognitive rehearsal. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that other people's actions were driven by their own beliefs and limitations, and that his role was not to control them, but to govern himself. In Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." For the Stoic, restraint is not weakness, but discipline. The discipline to act from reason rather than from the first flash of emotion. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can meet the world as it is, without letting the world dictate who you become. A peaceful heart is not a heart that has never known pain or difficulty. It is a heart that has walked through storms, been touched by loss, faced disappointment, and still beats with steadiness. It is not numbness. It is clarity. It is not retreat. It is resilience. When you carry peace inside, the world can still touch you, but it cannot control you. Life still brings challenges, but the response is measured. When someone offers praise, a peaceful heart accepts it with gratitude, but doesn't become inflated. When someone offers criticism, it listens without crumbling. This stability is one of its most powerful traits. It is anchored not in the constant shifting of external approval or disapproval, but in an inner sense of worth. This doesn't mean never feeling strong emotions. It means feeling them without being swept away. A peaceful heart can grieve without falling into despair, celebrate without losing awareness, and face uncertainty without succumbing to fear. Like a deep lake, it may ripple on the surface, but its depths remain still. Anger and resentment are like heavy stones carried in the chest. They weigh you down with every step. To hold them is to let the past dictate the present. A peaceful heart chooses release, not because the hurt was insignificant, but because it refuses to let that hurt poison the present moment. Forgiveness in this sense is not a gift to the one who wronged you. It is a gift to yourself. In a world obsessed with speed, a peaceful heart moves at its own pace. It doesn't rush to judgment or decision simply to escape discomfort. It allows space for thought, for breathing, for simply being. This slowness is not laziness, it is deliberate living. By not being driven by urgency, a peaceful heart avoids many of the mistakes that come from haste. Perhaps most importantly, a peaceful heart lives in the present. It does not dwell endlessly on the past or anxiously on the future. It understands that peace exists only here in the moment you are living right now. This presence transforms even small experiences, a sip of tea, a sunset, a conversation, into moments of quiet fulfillment. Why is a peaceful heart so valuable? First, it enhances decision-making. When you are not clouded by agitation or fear, you see options more clearly and can weigh them without bias. Second, it improves relationships. People are drawn to those who bring steadiness rather than drama. Your calm presence becomes a safe place for others, which deepens trust and connection. Third, it safeguards your health. Chronic stress erodes the body. Peace allows it to repair and sustain itself. Building a peaceful heart is not a matter of waiting for life to become easy. It is about developing habits that protect and nurture your inner stability no matter the circumstances. It starts with self-awareness, noticing what disturbs your peace and why. From there, it requires setting boundaries, practicing acceptance, and finding daily rituals that anchor you. Morning walks, journaling, meditation, deep conversation with someone you trust. It's also important to recognize that peace does not mean avoidance. Avoidance may feel like peace in the short term, but it is brittle and temporary. True peace is not afraid to face difficulty because it knows that peace is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of strength. This is why people with peaceful hearts often make the best leaders in crisis. They can confront problems head-on without losing themselves to panic or despair. Think of a firefighter entering a burning building. Their heart rate rises, their body is flooded with adrenaline, but inside, their focus remains clear. This is peace in action, not the peace of stillness, but the peace of purpose. A peaceful heart does not crumble under pressure. It adapts, it responds, it acts with steadiness. The journey to a peaceful heart is lifelong. There will be moments when old habits return, when agitation creeps in, when you feel your peace slipping. But each time you return to it, you strengthen it. Over time, peace becomes less a state you visit and more the place where you live. And when you live there, when your heart is anchored, you realize that nothing the world throws at you can truly take that away. For the Stoics, a peaceful heart was the natural result of living in harmony with reason and virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." A peaceful heart in the Stoic sense is not dependent on favorable circumstances, but on the disciplined cultivation of the mind. Epictetus taught that turmoil comes not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. By adjusting those judgments, by seeing events as opportunities for character, rather than threats to comfort, we preserve our inner stillness. To the Stoic, peace is active, not passive. It is the trained ability to meet life as it comes, to accept what cannot be changed, and to act with integrity toward what can. This kind of peace cannot be given by fortune, nor can it be taken by misfortune. It is entirely your own. Every human life contains obstacles, some small and inconvenient, others life-altering. Most of us instinctively try to avoid them. We hope they will disappear on their own, or that someone else will take care of them. And sometimes the fear of the obstacle is worse than the obstacle itself. The mind builds a picture of disaster, failure, humiliation, loss. We rehearse these images until they feel inevitable. But here's the truth. When you find the courage to face the obstacle, you often discover it is smaller, less threatening, and more manageable than you imagined. Like shadows in a dark room, they look largest when we stand far away. When we step closer, the shape becomes clearer. We see what is real and what is only imagined. This is why facing challenges head-on is not just about solving problems. It's about reclaiming mental territory from fear. It means choosing to act despite fear. You may still feel the tension in your stomach, the tightness in your chest, the quickened heartbeat. But instead of running from these sensations, you carry them with you into action. Often the hardest part of any challenge is not the doing, but the deciding the moment you turn toward the thing you've been avoiding. You must name it clearly. This is the problem I'm dealing with. Vague dread keeps you powerless. A clear definition gives you a starting point. If your obstacle is a strained relationship, say it plainly. I need to have a difficult conversation with my sibling. If it's financial trouble, admit it directly. I need to confront my debt. This act of naming removes the fog of uncertainty. Large problems feel overwhelming because we imagine tackling them all at once. But almost every challenge can be divided into smaller, actionable steps. If you're facing a health issue, the first step might be scheduling an appointment, not curing the illness. If you're struggling with a work project, the first step might be drafting a list of tasks, not completing the whole thing in one night. When you take the first small step, something important happens. The obstacle becomes a situation. Situations can be worked on, adjusted, improved. They no longer feel like immovable walls. They become paths with choices. Of course, there is always the risk that the obstacle will be as difficult as you feared. Sometimes it will even be worse. But here is the deeper truth. By facing it, you strengthen yourself in ways that go beyond the immediate problem. You build the muscle of resilience, the habit of action, and the confidence that you can survive discomfort. These qualities will serve you long after the specific obstacle is gone. Think of a time you avoided a problem for weeks, maybe months, only to find that dealing with it took far less time than you spent worrying about it. That gap between imagined difficulty and actual difficulty is where courage changes everything. The sooner you step into that space, the more of your life you get back. Instead of seeing fear as a stop sign, you start to see it as a signal. This is an area where I can grow. The fear may never vanish completely, but it loses its control over you. You become comfortable with discomfort, willing to feel the heat of challenge without retreating. You are no longer the person waiting for life to make things easier. You are the person who becomes stronger in meeting what life brings. That shift in identity is powerful. It changes how you see yourself and how others see you. People trust those who face obstacles directly because they know such a person can be relied upon in uncertain times. Once you are in motion, allies appear, solutions emerge, and your own problem-solving abilities sharpen. Action attracts possibility in a way that avoidance never will. Ultimately, courage in the face of obstacles is not about reckless bravery or dramatic gestures. It is about quiet persistence, the willingness to turn toward difficulty, take the next step, and keep moving forward even if progress is slow. Over time, this builds an unshakable inner message. No matter what comes, I will face it. And that belief is one of the most valuable forms of security you can ever possess. The Stoics viewed obstacles not as interruptions to life, but as life itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is more than poetic encouragement. It is a practical philosophy. When you accept that obstacles are part of the path, you stop resenting them and start using them. Epictetus taught that the only true harm comes from surrendering your moral purpose. An obstacle cannot take this from you unless you give it away. In this sense, facing difficulties is not just about solving problems. It's about practicing virtue, courage, discipline, patience. To a Stoic, the obstacle is the training ground. Each challenge is an invitation to demonstrate who you are and who you are becoming. By meeting obstacles head-on, you live in alignment with nature's design, growing stronger, wiser, and freer with every step forward. Overcoming an obstacle is rarely a single dramatic leap. More often, it's a steady, deliberate process, a sequence of steps that turns something intimidating into something manageable. People who seem naturally resilient are not immune to fear or failure. They have simply learned how to move through challenges in a structured way. The beauty of this process is that anyone can learn it, and once learned, it can be applied to almost any problem life throws your way. Without clear definition, problems remain vague shadows in the mind. Vague problems feel unsolvable. When you say to yourself, "I'm stressed about work," it's too broad to tackle. But when you say, "I'm stressed because I have 3 overdue projects and unclear priorities," you suddenly have something concrete to address. Naming transforms fear into a target. You cannot hit what you cannot see. Large obstacles overwhelm us because we imagine facing them in their entirety all at once. This is like staring at a mountain and thinking you have to leap from base to peak. In reality, every mountain is climbed one step at a time. Break the problem into smaller, actionable pieces. If your obstacle is debt, one step might be listing all your balances. Another might be creating a payment plan. Another might be finding ways to increase income. Each step is less daunting than the whole, and completing one creates momentum for the next. The longer you wait to start, the larger the obstacle grows in your mind. Even a small action, making a phone call, sending an email, setting a meeting, begins to dissolve the sense of paralysis. Small actions chip away at fear because they prove you are capable of movement. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this here to teach me?" This mindset shift is powerful because it turns the obstacle into a source of value rather than just a source of stress. Maybe it's teaching you patience, strategic thinking, or the need to set boundaries. Even if the challenge is painful, the lesson becomes a reward that outlasts the discomfort. This is where many people stumble. They start strong but lose focus when emotions flare up. Frustration, self-doubt, or discouragement. Here, the discipline of pausing, breathing, and reassessing comes into play. Ask yourself, am I reacting to the reality of the situation or to my fear of it? A calm mind makes better decisions, and managing your emotions ensures you keep moving rather than quitting. No plan survives unchanged when it meets reality. Sometimes your first approach won't work, and that's fine. Review your progress regularly. What's working? What's not? What resources do you need? Adjust your course without letting pride or stubbornness keep you locked into a failing strategy. Obstacles often require persistent effort. You may need to repeat parts of the process, reframe, adjust, take another small step many times before the challenge is fully resolved. The persistence itself builds resilience. You're not only solving this problem, you're training yourself to meet the next one more efficiently. This process may sound simple, but its power lies in its consistent application. Many people know about these steps, but don't follow them in a disciplined way. They jump from recognition straight to frantic action without breaking the problem down. Or they start with small steps, but abandon them when results aren't immediate. The key to overcoming obstacles is not just knowing the path it's walking, it with patience and persistence. Consider an example: a student failing a class mid-semester. Without a process, the student may avoid the subject entirely out of shame, or try to cram desperately for the next test without addressing underlying gaps. But with a process, the student first names the obstacle. I am failing because I don't understand key concepts from the first 2 units. They break it down. Step 1, meet with the teacher. Step 2, create a study plan. Step 3, attend extra tutoring sessions. Step 4, review past tests to identify patterns of mistakes. They take the smallest step, emailing the teacher to schedule a meeting. They reframe the problem as a lesson in time management and study skills. They manage emotions by reminding themselves that failure is feedback, not a verdict. They review progress weekly and adjust as needed. Over time, grades improve, and even if they don't reach perfection, the student leaves with skills that will help in every future class. This method works because it respects how the mind and body handle difficulty. Big, undefined problems trigger the brain's threat response, making you more likely to freeze or flee. Breaking them down into steps shifts the brain toward problem-solving mode, which releases the mental energy needed to act. Reframing taps into curiosity instead of fear. Managing emotions keeps you steady in the face of setbacks. Adjusting ensures that the path forward remains effective. Overcoming obstacles is not about eliminating all difficulty from your life. It is about transforming your relationship with difficulty. When you have a reliable process, you stop seeing obstacles as enemies and start seeing them as challenges you are equipped to handle. This change alone removes much of the fear because confidence grows from preparation. And here is the deeper reward. Every time you follow this process to overcome one obstacle, you are also building the strength to face the next one. You are creating a library of proof in your own memory. I have done this before. I can do it again. That is how resilience is built, not through avoiding hardship, but through meeting it repeatedly until it no longer shakes you the same way. The Stoics would recognize this process as the practical application of their philosophy. Marcus Aurelius saw each obstacle as an opportunity to exercise virtue. When he wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way," he was describing the transformation that happens when you use the very thing blocking you as the material for growth. Epictetus taught that life's tests are not punishments but training, like exercises in a gym for the soul. The process of naming, breaking down, acting, reframing, managing emotions, and adjusting aligns perfectly with Stoic discipline. It turns obstacles from sources of suffering into exercises in wisdom, courage, and temperance. For the Stoic, the goal is not to live without obstacles, but to live without being broken by them. By refining a process for overcoming them, you embody this ideal, turning every barrier into a stepping stone toward a stronger, freer self. One of the most liberating moments in personal growth is when you realize that a situation you once found overwhelming now feels ordinary. The same event that used to trigger anxiety, anger, or dread barely stirs you. You handle it with ease, almost automatically, without the emotional chaos that once consumed you. This transformation is not magic. It is the result of shifting perspective, building resilience, and intentionally reshaping how you interpret challenges. Many people assume that normalizing difficulties means becoming numb, but it's the opposite. It's not that you stop caring, it's that you stop panicking. You experience the same reality without the unnecessary suffering that comes from distorted thinking or exaggerated fear. Fear often magnifies problems beyond their actual scale. Our imagination paints the worst-case scenario, filling in every unknown with disaster. The mind takes a setback and turns it into a catastrophe. To counter this, you must confront the situation with honest measurement. Ask yourself, what is the real scope of this? What is the actual worst outcome? And how likely is it? This exercise strips away much of the imagined weight. The moment we label something as terrible, unfair, or unbearable, we give it emotional leverage over us. Observation, on the other hand, keeps us neutral enough to think clearly. Instead of, "This is awful," you think, "This is what's happening right now." This small shift removes layers of unnecessary emotion, allowing you to focus on practical responses. Much of our stress comes not from what is happening, but from what we think might happen. We suffer through entire events in our heads that never occur in reality. Bringing yourself back to the present through grounding techniques, deep breathing, or simply naming what's in front of you breaks this cycle. You stop fighting shadows. When you frame an obstacle as a workout for your mind and character, it stops feeling like an injustice and starts feeling like an opportunity. That meeting with a difficult client, a chance to practice patience, that project gone wrong, a lesson in adaptability. By viewing situations as part of your personal growth program, you make them less threatening and more purposeful. Every time you face a challenge, your brain learns that you can survive it. The first time you speak in public, your heart pounds. The fifth time it still beats fast, but your hands don't shake. By the 10th time, you feel calm enough to think about your pacing and tone instead of your nerves. This repeated exposure is how once daunting situations become ordinary. It means you respond to them with the same steadiness you would bring to routine events. Think of a firefighter responding to a house fire. To them it's serious, but it's also Tuesday, because they have trained for it, faced it before, and know exactly what to do. When you stop reacting to every challenge as if it were a personal emergency, you free up mental and emotional resources for what truly matters. You spend less time in spirals of overthinking and more time in purposeful action. They see that you don't flinch at the first sign of trouble. This builds trust and often positions you as someone to turn to when things get messy. Ironically, the more normal difficulties feel to you, the more extraordinary you appear to those still caught in cycles of overreaction. The first time you try to shrink a problem, your emotions might resist. The first time you practice observation instead of judgment, your mind might slip back into labeling. That's fine. These are skills, and skills improve with repetition. Each attempt plants a seed. Over time, you'll notice the signs of progress. You recover from setbacks faster. Your emotional highs and lows even out, and situations that once dominated your thoughts barely register. What was once a mountain is now a hill. The final key is to remind yourself regularly of what you've already normalized. Look back at your life a year ago. Which events used to scare you that no longer do? Which situations used to drain you that you now handle with ease? This reflection shows you that growth is happening, and if you've normalized those challenges, you can normalize the ones you face today. When you reach this point, difficulties will still come, but they will meet a steadier, stronger version of you. And that's when life becomes far less about avoiding discomfort and far more about moving forward without fear. The Stoics mastered the art of making difficulties normal. Epictetus taught that events themselves are neutral. It is our judgments that make them seem unbearable. By removing unnecessary judgment, we see situations as they are, not as monsters we've created in our minds. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that what feels shocking or unjust today will be commonplace tomorrow. He understood that repeated exposure turns the extraordinary into the ordinary. As he wrote in Meditations, you will meet the same things over and over. Accept them, for they are part of nature's pattern. To the Stoic, normalizing difficulty is not about denial, but about alignment. It's the recognition that life will always present challenges, and that by meeting them calmly and consistently, you strip them of their power to disrupt your peace. When every obstacle is just another step on the path, nothing feels unmanageable. The Stoics lived in a world that was just as unpredictable and challenging as ours, perhaps even more so. They faced wars, plagues, political betrayal, and personal loss. Yet they developed a philosophy that not only helped them endure, but allowed them to find meaning and strength in the midst of adversity. To the Stoics, obstacles were not detours from life's path. They were the path itself. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled during times of war and plague, captured this idea perfectly in his Meditations. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. These are not the words of someone who expected life to be easy. They are the words of a man who understood that difficulty is not a signal to stop, but a signal to engage. The Stoic perspective on obstacles begins with a clear distinction. There are things you can control, and there are things you cannot. Epictetus, once a slave and later a respected teacher, stressed this point constantly. You cannot control other people's behavior, the weather, the economy, or even the exact circumstances of your own health. You can control your own thoughts, choices, and actions. To waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable is to exhaust yourself and accomplish nothing. But to focus on what you can control is to find power and freedom, even in the harshest conditions. From this foundation, Stoics approached obstacles with a kind of disciplined curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why me?" they asked, "How can this serve me?" This was not a denial of pain or difficulty. It was a refusal to let those feelings dictate their entire response. They recognized that within every hardship, there was material for practicing virtue, patience in the face of delay, courage in the face of danger, discipline in the face of temptation, wisdom in the face of confusion. Seneca, a philosopher and statesman, offered another angle. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. He knew that just as muscles grow through resistance, the mind grows through challenges. An obstacle is not just something to survive, it is something to be shaped by in the best possible way. This reframing transforms the nature of the challenge. Instead of seeing it as an enemy, you start to see it as a demanding but valuable teacher. The Stoics also understood the importance of preparation. They practiced a mental exercise known as premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This involved imagining possible obstacles and setbacks before they happened. The purpose wasn't to dwell in negativity, but to lessen the shock when those events occurred and to prepare a rational response. If you have already considered the possibility of loss, betrayal, or failure, then when it arrives, it feels less like an ambush and more like something you've trained for. Another key Stoic insight was emotional responsibility. They believed that external events do not force us to feel or act in a certain way. It is our interpretation of those events that determines our reaction. If you see an obstacle as unfair punishment, you will likely respond with resentment and despair. If you see it as a challenge that tests and refines you, you will likely respond with focus and effort. To live this way requires practice, and the Stoics were practical people. They didn't just speak philosophy in comfortable rooms. They applied it in courts, battlefields, and markets. Epictetus taught his students to start small, to practice self-control in conversations, to remain composed when inconvenienced, to meet small disappointments with grace. These were training grounds for the larger trials that inevitably came. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the Stoic approach is its sense of acceptance without passivity. They accepted that certain things were beyond their control, but they did not use this as an excuse to do nothing. On the contrary, this acceptance freed them to act more effectively on the things they could influence. If a Stoic faced a political enemy spreading lies about them, they did not waste time trying to erase the lies from every corner of the empire. They focused on living in a way that made those lies unconvincing to anyone who knew them. In modern terms, applying the Stoic perspective to obstacles means refusing to be shocked by the fact that life is difficult. It means practicing the discipline of separating what you can control from what you cannot, and then pouring your energy only into the first category. It means treating challenges not as interruptions to your real life, but as essential parts of it, the parts that offer you the chance to grow stronger, wiser, and more virtuous. It also means preparing your mind in advance. When you expect that obstacles will arise, not because you are pessimistic, but because you are realistic, you stop taking them personally. You stop seeing them as proof that something is wrong with your life, and start seeing them as proof that you are living. Ultimately, the Stoic view of obstacles leads to a profound kind of resilience. You stop wishing for an easy life and start building the capacity for a strong one. You stop waiting for the storm to pass and start learning how to stand in the rain without losing your footing. And in doing so, you discover that the obstacle was never just in the way, it was part of the way forward all along. The Stoic perspective on obstacles is best summed up by Marcus Aurelius. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is more than a comforting thought. It is a strategy for living. Every difficulty is raw material for virtue. Delay calls for patience. Danger calls for courage. Confusion calls for wisdom. Epictetus taught that if you cannot change an event, you can still change your mind about it. This inner freedom is the foundation of resilience. Seneca reminded us that hardships are like weights in a gym. They are not there to crush us, but to build our strength. By adopting this mindset, we no longer see obstacles as intrusions, but as integral parts of the path. The road is not something to be cleared of difficulty. It is something to be walked with skill, regardless of what lies along it. Calmness is not a switch you flip when life gets chaotic. It's a skill you maintain and strengthen every day so that when storms arrive, you already have the inner stability to face them. Just like physical fitness comes from regular training, mental steadiness comes from consistent, intentional practice. The key is to integrate calmness-building habits into your routine so they become second nature, no different from brushing your teeth or tying your shoes. This is not a diary of everything that happens to you, but a record of how you respond to events. Each day, write down one moment when you felt your calmness being tested. Describe the situation, the emotion you felt, how you reacted, and what you might do differently next time. This practice sharpens your self-awareness, helping you recognize emotional triggers before they escalate. Over time, you start to see patterns, and with patterns come opportunities to break unhelpful cycles. You don't need an hour-long meditation to train your attention. Just take 5 minutes once or twice a day to notice your breath, the sounds around you, and the sensations in your body. The goal is not to stop thinking, but to anchor yourself in the present. This small habit teaches your nervous system that it's possible to slow down even when the day feels rushed. The next time you feel provoked, pause before reacting. Observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. I'm feeling irritated. My chest feels tight. My mind is racing. Then choose your response deliberately rather than letting the first impulse take over. Practicing this in minor situations like a slow cashier or a critical comment prepares you to use it in bigger, more stressful moments. Set small intentional tests for yourself each day. It could be standing in a longer checkout line without checking your phone, listening, without interrupting in a conversation, or letting someone merge in front of you in traffic without irritation. These tiny acts strengthen the muscle of patience and reduce your sensitivity to minor stresses. Before bed, ask yourself, what did I do today to protect my peace? Where did I lose my calmness? What can I try differently tomorrow? This short review keeps calmness at the forefront of your awareness and turns every day into a feedback loop for growth. Decluttering your workspace, limiting constant notifications on your phone, and creating a small calm corner in your home with a comfortable chair and minimal distractions can make it easier to maintain steady energy. Calmness is not just an inner skill, it's supported by external cues. Finally, consider practicing gratitude with precision. Instead of listing general things you're thankful for, identify specific moments from the day that brought you comfort or joy. A good conversation, the taste of your coffee, a moment of sunlight on your face. This shifts your attention away from constant problem solving and trains your mind to notice the ordinary sources of peace already in your life. These exercises work best when approached with consistency rather than intensity. You don't have to do them all at once. Start with 1 or 2, make them habits and build from there. Calmness grows through repetition, and each small win compounds over time. Over weeks and months, you'll notice subtle but profound changes. Fewer emotional spikes, quicker recovery from setbacks, and an increasing sense that no single moment can control your entire day. This is the essence of cultivating calmness, not that life becomes easy, but that you become steady enough to handle it without being shaken. The Stoics would recognize these daily exercises as essential forms of training. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the mind must be dyed with the color of its habitual thoughts. If your daily habits are reactive and scattered, your mind will reflect that chaos. But if your habits are steady and deliberate, your mind will mirror that steadiness. Epictetus compared life to a sport where preparation off the field determines performance in the game. Practicing calmness in small, ordinary situations through journaling, mindful pauses, and deliberate patience is the Stoic equivalent of daily drills. These prepare you for the big matches of life loss, betrayal, disappointment. For the Stoic training is not about removing emotion, but about aligning it with reason. Daily practice ensures that when obstacles arise, you are not scrambling to invent calmness on the spot. You are simply relying on a strength you've built day after day. Calmness is often underestimated because it doesn't announce itself with noise or spectacle. It doesn't shout to prove its strength. It simply holds steady, quiet, and unshaken in the middle of circumstances that might rattle anyone else. But if you look closely at people who thrive over decades through cycles of change and crisis, you'll find calmness woven into their decisions, their relationships, and their ability to adapt. When you are calm, you can see the difference between what is urgent and what is important. You can hear the signal beneath the noise. This means you avoid the common trap of reacting to the loudest problem instead of addressing the most critical one. Over time, this habit compounds. You make fewer hasty choices, recover faster from mistakes, and move steadily toward your goals, while others are constantly starting over. People instinctively gravitate toward those who remain steady under pressure. In moments of conflict, your calm presence invites trust and cooperation. You're the one who can diffuse tension without avoiding the truth, who can listen without immediately defending, and who can make others feel safe enough to speak honestly. These qualities deepen bonds and make you a natural leader whether or not you hold a formal title. Chronic stress erodes the immune system, disrupts sleep, and shortens lifespan. By managing your emotional state, you prevent the constant flood of stress hormones that wears the body down. A calm mind signals to the body that it is safe, which allows for recovery, focus, and creativity. This is not just about feeling good, it's about extending the energy you have to live well and serve others. The world will not stop shifting. Jobs end, economies contract, relationships evolve, and unexpected crises appear. If your sense of stability depends on everything going as planned, life will constantly knock you off balance. But when your steadiness comes from within, you can adapt to change without losing yourself. You see change not as a threat to your identity, but as a natural part of the journey. In a culture obsessed with speed, the ability to wait to let ideas mature, to allow relationships to develop, to hold your position until the right moment is a rare advantage. Calm people are less likely to abandon a course of action just because results aren't immediate. They understand that meaningful outcomes often take time, and they can endure the discomfort of waiting without making reckless moves. A calm person's mood is not dictated by the rise and fall of external events. They celebrate successes without becoming complacent and absorb setbacks without collapsing. This stability makes them more consistent in their work, their commitments, and their personal principles, and consistency over time builds reputation and influence. Of course, calmness is not immunity from emotion. It's not about being unaffected by joy or sadness. Rather, it's about being able to hold those emotions without letting them dictate every decision. You can feel deeply and still act wisely. You can be moved by compassion without being swept into impractical choices. You can be outraged by injustice without becoming consumed by rage. This balance allows you to be both human and effective. When things fall apart, the calm person becomes a point of orientation for others. They are the one who says, "Let's look at the facts. Let's take the next step." This steadiness doesn't just solve problems, it inspires others to find their own stability. In this way, calmness is contagious. It radiates outward, changing the tone of the entire environment. Perhaps the most beautiful part of lasting calmness is how it changes your relationship with life itself. When you are calm, you no longer feel the need to control every detail. You can engage fully with the present moment, because you are not constantly bracing for disaster or racing toward the next thing. This presence makes ordinary experiences, a meal, a walk, a conversation richer. You begin to realize that much of the happiness you were chasing was available all along, hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to slow down enough to see it. Building this kind of lasting calmness requires practice, as we've discussed in earlier sections. Daily self-awareness, intentional pauses, reframing challenges, and aligning your actions with your values. But it also requires a choice, the decision to value calmness as much as you value ambition, achievement, or recognition. Without that choice, the practices won't stick because in moments of stress, you'll revert to whatever you truly prioritize. When you make calmness a priority, it becomes part of your identity. You begin to think of yourself as someone who can handle difficulty without panic, who can remain steady in conversations that make others defensive, who can be patient when others rush. This identity becomes self-reinforcing. The more you live it, the stronger it becomes, and the more natural it feels to return to calmness even after you're shaken. In the long arc of life, calmness proves itself again and again as a source of power that doesn't fade. Strength of body diminishes with age. Opportunities may come and go, but the ability to stay steady in your mind and heart will serve you until your last day. It will help you navigate the changing world with grace, maintain relationships with depth, and leave a legacy of stability in a time when stability is rare. Calmness, in the end, is not just a way of managing moments, it's a way of shaping an entire life. And the life shaped by calmness is one that can hold both the beauty and the hardship of existence without being broken by either. The Stoics saw lasting calmness as the crown of a disciplined life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You will meet the same things over and over. Accept them, for they are part of nature's pattern." This acceptance is not resignation, it is wisdom, the recognition that life will bring both joy and hardship, and that your peace depends on neither. Epictetus reminded his students that external events cannot truly harm the soul unless you let them. By practicing daily discipline, aligning your actions with virtue, and focusing only on what is within your control, you create a calmness that time and misfortune cannot erode. To the Stoic, such calmness is the ultimate strength. It is the freedom to act according to reason, the courage to face whatever comes, and the grace to leave the rest to fate. In cultivating it, you prepare yourself not just for moments, but for the whole of life. Across every part of this journey, we've returned to one central truth. Calmness is not a passive state you fall into when the world finally gives you peace. It is an active strength you cultivate so that you can bring peace into the world, no matter its condition. We've explored its roots in self-awareness, its structure in self-restraint, and its expansion through personal responsibility. We've seen how it transforms a troubled heart into a peaceful one, how it empowers us to face obstacles without shrinking, and how it turns even the most intimidating challenges into manageable steps. We've connected daily practices to timeless Stoic wisdom, showing that calmness is both a practical skill and a profound philosophy. The real test of calmness is not in quiet moments, but in turbulent ones. It's easy to feel steady when everything is going your way. It's another thing entirely to remain composed when plans collapse, when others lose control, or when life delivers the unexpected. This is why calmness, once mastered, becomes a form of freedom. You are no longer at the mercy of events or the moods of others. You hold your own center, and from that center, you act with clarity, purpose, and dignity. The lasting power of calmness lies in its reach. It sharpens decision-making, strengthens relationships, protects health, and inspires trust. It allows you to move through change without losing yourself, to be patient in a hurried world, and to see challenges not as threats but as opportunities to grow. And perhaps most importantly, it gives you the ability to experience life more fully, to be present for its beauty as well as its hardship without being consumed by either. So carry this truth forward. Calmness is not the end of the path. It is the path itself. Make it your daily practice, your trusted tool, your quiet anchor. With it, you will find that no matter how fierce the storm, you can navigate with steady hands and a clear mind. And that steadiness, that unshakable presence, will be your greatest strength in a world that desperately needs it.